Hello, and welcome to the Genesis of Preacher. I'm Chris, this is Shawn.
I'm Shawn, this is Chris. Oh, we've covered that already, haven't we?
And today we're going to talk about episode 3 of the second season of Preacher. This episode here started off with retelling the tale of Eugene, of what happened with Eugene, how he ended up becoming Arseface.
And, you know, I'll tell you, when it starts, it's like, you get right away that you're getting that story, but it was so different than what you had been led to believe. And we were just talking about this before we started rolling, the idea that, like, the mother of the girl painted it a totally different way, and you see what actually happened, and you're very sympathetic for his character. And then it just, that horrible scene where he kisses her, and she'd rather blow her brains out, and then he pulls the gun, you know, and then it just keeps repeating. And so then you get like, oh, this is like what we saw from the Saint of Killers in the first season. Mm-hmm. I felt like it was a much worse version of hell.
But it was a very interesting and very different take from how it happened in the books. Because, I mean, you remember how it happened in the books.
Yeah, I just reread the issue. It's the Arseface special. It's the story of you-know-who, and he hangs, you know, it's very grunge era, right? So he hangs out with this guy, and Cobain is their idol, and they get picked on and beat up, and no girls like him, and even the teachers give him a hard time. And then when Cobain dies, the buddy says, like, I'm going to kill myself. So Sheriff Root in the book is a totally different character, and he falls asleep every night, basically drinks himself into a stupor, passes out on the lawn, firing the shotgun at the sky, waiting for Martians. We won't go into his full theory about what the Martians look like, but so they know this, so they get the gun, and then the friend shoots himself and dies, and then Eugene.
It's very reverse Columbine.
Yeah, it is. It's very reverse Columbine, which is interesting because it predates Columbine by a couple years, but there is the reference in it. Like, I think the friend says, like, we could just take the gun in and just, you know, shoot all these people that give us a hard time. So it's interesting climate.
But yeah, so then, you know, so the friend kills himself, and then Eugene, trying to uphold the suicide pact, you know, even, you know, he tries to kill himself, but even he couldn't do that right.
There's a great moment when he wakes up in the hospital, and the book's Sheriff Root says something to the effect of, you should have put it in your mouth, dumb shit. You know, like, no sympathy for his son.
None whatsoever.
So
he's
stark.
Probably more thinking about, you know, like looking at like the hospital bill than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was a great intro, and then you also get this thing. I forget if it was later that they introduced the idea that, like, they're in this weird cell block in hell. Mm-hmm. So it's
there was a thing where, you know, his hologram went on the fritz.
Oh, that's what. Yes.
So it's almost like hell has, you know, everybody has their own fucking little holodeck.
Yep. It's all like that episode of Black Mirror in a way, the super Facebook treadmill episode in a way.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but it's, you know, it's everybody has their own little personal hell. So as you saw in the first season, the Saint of Killers had his, where he relives his
most traumatic experience
over and over and over again, and for whatever reason, his hologram goes on the fritz. Lady comes in, you know, says, just stay in here,
stay there,
don't move. And so naturally, Eugene doesn't.
Right.
He walks out, and another door opens up, and it's fucking Hitler.
It's Hitler. And so now that makes me wonder, what is Hitler reliving? That's his most traumatic moment.
I was just thinking that, maybe flunking art school. You know, he's not painting the happy trees.
Oh man.
But that's actually the actor playing him is, I want to say his name is Noah Taylor.
I think that's right.
He was probably more well known from Game of Thrones. Good actor, and kind of cheating a little bit and looking at IMDb. He's listed for quite a few episodes.
So Hitler's sticking around for a little bit, folks.
Hitler's going to be around for a while. So.
Well, and they had teased his image in the trailer for season 2, and I'm thinking, like, is this like a Hitler impersonator or like some weird like sex club thing or something?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Like $50 to fuck Hitler, and then like, no, it's Hitler in hell. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see.
It's like $50 to watch.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how they develop the hell thread, how deep we go into it, what we learn about it, because there's none of that in the book.
But the most interesting thing that I thought, my biggest takeaway was not just that Eugene walks out because this thing's on a fritz and Hitler walks out of his cell, but also you hear all the other cell doors unlock.
Oh,
and they start to open up. So what is going on in hell that's sending everything on the fritz?
Well, It's interesting. The only time they go into hell in the book is where it's the Angel of Death and the Devil are playing. I forget if it's cards or chess, and the Angel of Death is complaining he doesn't want to do it anymore, and that's basically when the Saint of Killers shows up, and the Angel of Death makes him the Saint of Killers so he can leave and not have the responsibility anymore.
Exactly.
So I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's not going to be it, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it very well could be.
So what else about the third episode?
So the third episode, I gotta say, one of my favorite things about the third episode was, and I want to say it was entirely one shot, was where, so Jesse is told by this bartender, oh, you're looking for God, go down and go see this one singer at this other club. He goes down there and watches her set. He approaches her and says something along the lines of, I want to talk about God, and she, says,
clean yourself up, meet me outside. Freak! How dare you!
So he notices her getting abducted, and he runs after the van, tells the van to stop, and this whole fight ensues. And I want to say, from when the van stops and this fight starts, it's entirely one shot.
Yeah, you might be right about that.
I mean, the choreography on that was fantastic. It puts Iron Fist to shame.
Well, I actually remember wondering if the guy that choreographed the Daredevil hallway fight scene in the first season might have had something. Like, it was a very similar. It was
exactly.
Like at least maybe an influence.
It had that vibe. I was sitting there watching it with my wife, and it's like a minute and a half into it, and I looked at her and I'm like, holy shit, is this still the same fucking shot?
Yeah.
It was that well done, and these men kept pouring out of this van. Which I'm going to point out real quick that contrary to the comic, they're all wearing a white suit with a red tie, which was in the comic. Herr Starr, the character, he would generally wear a white suit with a red tie.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe that the group is the group known in the comic as the Grail.
Yeah.
Now, however, in the comic book, like you were saying earlier, they're dressed very much like Legionnaires.
Yeah, it's a different uniform. Star looks one way, but everybody else involved in it kind of looks a different way.
Big feather in their beret.
Yes.
Kind of thing. But so that whole fight that broke out, that's hands down one of my favorite things about that episode. It was so well done.
Yeah, it was really well done. And it brings up, there's a thing in the book where, and it's slightly different, although I think we're going there, where Jesse doesn't use the word because he feels like he only is going to use it if he needs to. Now, in the show, I think it was in the second episode. There's a point where Tulip says, isn't that kind of cheating? So she introduces this idea to Jesse's character that maybe don't use it so much.
Well, not just that, but also in the second episode, Feyor straight up says, go ahead, use it, see what happens.
Yeah, and then the Saint's tracking him.
So the Saint of Killers can somehow track Jesse
based on his use of the word.
Of Genesis.
Which... Another thing that I don't love is they alter the character because the character of Jesse in the book is so staunchly like the John Wayne, like, no, I'm not going to use this unless I have to, because he prefers, he's very confident, if he gets into trouble, his fists will find his way out. So I liked seeing this at least where like he can take care of himself. Like
exactly, he didn't just... which that's one thing that struck me as funny is that, he tells the van to stop, the van stops, it's like, well, you just called, essentially, the Saint of Killers, now he's going to start, honing in on your signal. Why didn't you just tell everyone,
shoot yourself.
Stand still, or anything like that, but he didn't, and that really speaks to the character,
yes.
That, I'm going to use this, when I have to, to change the situation, but now the situation's changed, now I'm going to go back to what I know, which is... talking with his fists. So
exactly. So I mean, that was I love that whole sequence. It was very, very good. Mm-hmm. I got to bring up. Well, no, actually, finish the train of thought because where we go from this is the singer, right? and I think you saw this coming and I didn't, is not really just this average jazz singer in New Orleans. She ends up being Featherstone, who is Air Star's like right-hand woman
in the comics,
yeah,
and presumably now that we will see in the show. And then I missed it the first time when I watched it. He pointed out to me again that at one point they actually did address her as Agent Featherstone.
I believe the driver says Agent Feather or Miss Featherstone,
which the driver was the same guy who played the bartender who told Jesse to go to the which club to go to,
right. So I mean, and then that brings up the whole thing is like obviously like they're 3 steps ahead of him, so that's very, very interesting. And interesting, the Grail in the book ties into Jesse's past and Angelville, and since we seem to be going there, I think it's going to be a different take on all of that, but it'll be very similar, so I'm curious to see how they do it.
Which we actually did see Jesse stop, and he kind of had an odd moment looking at a poster that did say Angelville.
Yeah, the magic of the bayou.
Exactly, which I don't know really where they're going with that, because as far as I knew in the comics, Angelville was the name of the kind of plantation, the swamp plantation, which he did make a comment in there about saying that, going down to New Orleans, that he liked the cities, but he didn't like the swamps.
Yeah.
And they said, well, why? He said, it's a family
thing. A family thing.
A little bit more foreshadowing. So they're definitely going there, and I want to know if it's going to be this season
I feel like it's going to be this season. Man, I don't know. It's good. So, I don't know. I don't know where we're going, but I'm very eager for it. So, we'll be back next week, and we'll talk about it again. But in the meantime, get your whiskey and get your Bible and start drinking.
All right. I'm Chris. This is
Shawn.
Shawn.
Genesis of Preacher.
Drinking with Comics. If you like what you see, be sure to subscribe.
And we're going to do a Man Dog video, I think. No, we're not.
$1,000 if you want to watch it. Good night.